peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We're the Fright Club and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're talking about the 1988 classic, Child's Play.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And we're back with another episode of Monday Night Frights. It's episode 4.9. We're being joined by a very special guest. We haven't had Joe on the show since season 1, but it's that movie guy, Joe Lennon.
Hey.
How's it going?
Hey. How's everybody keeping?
Very well, mate. How are you?
All good. Yeah, I'm keeping well.
Good stuff.
Glad to be back.
Good to have you back, man.
Too long. It's been too long.
It's crazy. It's been 3 seasons since we've had you on. And funny enough, this day last year was our Scream episode. That was the last episode that you were on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a little memory on the phone today to say that last year was the Scream episode, which was
Scream episode.
So wow. A year on. Took us a year to get you back on, but you're here anyway.
I'm here now. You asked so nicely.
I know, exactly. What's
Look
fucking
how far
you?
we've come since then as well.
I know.
Look how many.
Look,
how many
we've got earphones and everything.
Yeah, you've done great.
Yeah. We've got new mics and everything.
New setups behind this, and
we've got a backdrop and stuff. So
yeah.
And over 200 subscribers.
Exactly.
We did it. We made over 200 subscribers before Halloween. So thank you very much to everyone who's subscribed so far. But don't stop. Keep recommending. Keep going. People coming to us. Yeah.
Don't stop, never stopping. Keep going. Push us to 300.
Stop believing.
Don't stop. Oh, don't. That'll get the tears going, Danny. It always just reminds me of Tony Soprano. So let's not.
Don't even start us on Sopranos. That's for an entirely different show.
We're here to talk about Child's Play, the original, the OG Child's Play, not
Chucky.
The remake. Although we'll talk about the remake a little bit, maybe towards the end.
Make reference to the remake.
We will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Child's Play, directed by Tom Holland, the great Tom Holland, who is a horror legend. Previously had directed Fright Night, which is classic. Big Fright Night fans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I have seen it, but I think so obviously we're going to get to the whole, when did you first see Child's Play? And Child's Play and Fright Night both for me happened when I was far too young. So I have recollections of watching them, but don't really fully remember them. So going back and rewatching Child's Play for this episode, I was kind of like, I remember like chunks of this, but there's also a lot of it that I've just completely forgotten about. I think in terms of like Child's Play, the thing that I remember most was being like a teenager and watching the likes of The Bride of Chucky, The Seed of Chucky.
Yeah.
When it starts to get just way out there and silly. But they're the ones I kind of remember going back now and seeing the origin of it all and where it all kind of started. I mean, Chucky is still fucking towards the end of this film starts to become real kind of out there and sort of fantastical in his character. And again, I think that's why he has such a charm about him, like Freddy and Jason and all the rest. And that's why people sort of hold on to him in that regard along with them. But yeah, it's definitely nowhere near as camp and silly as it gets towards those final films that I kind of remember growing up with.
I would say he would be more closer to Freddy Krueger than he would be to Jason.
Yeah.
In terms of being a character anyway. Certainly in the later films, he gets closer to that kind of character.
But Joe, beyond.
Yeah, when did you first see it, Joe?
Oh, okay. It was a way later on because obviously I used to couldn't watch horror when I was little, and one of the things that I had just growing up was like things coming to life. It took me so long to see Poltergeist because of the clown. That just took so long. So I said, if I can do this, I could probably do Chucky. So it's like a competition. So Fan I done Poltergeist, and I was like, that wasn't bad. That I could do that. And then I finally seen Child's Play. I think I got it on DVD because the original one was so hard to get here for ages, and they finally released it, and I got it and I watched it and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was so different for what I thought it was going to be. I was shocked at how polished the film is. You know, it's so down the line. You know, it, as you say, you know, later on it becomes campy and comedic and stuff, but it was so straight. You know, you actually thought that this doll was alive. You know, and that's what I loved about it. It was like, because at a certain point I thought, here's me, okay, you know, these characters are kind of go, you know, themselves like really, you know, and you get that with Chris Sarandon's character, you know, it's kind of like, come on, you know, but when they believe it, that's what really showed me. When they really get into it, you know, it's like, Jesus, this is really frightening. You know, because to me, there's things in films where things come to life and you can kind of tell that the actors are ringing it in. They're like, listen, we know this is absolute nonsense, you know, but they're like, oh, the doll is alive. And you're like, come on, you know. But what really got to me, like I was enjoying it up until the point, but the point where it really truly scared me is when Catherine Hicks, Andy's mom, picks him up and she realizes he's no batteries. Yeah. And then the head turns around and I freaked. I genuinely freaked. I was like, the clown and Poltergeist is nothing compared to this, you know. But as I said, you know, so that got me into Chucky. So I would say it must have been about 2005 when I seen it. Right, it was long ago now. Yeah,
nice one.
Yeah,
well, Child's Play was one of my sort of, whenever I was younger, I didn't see it when it first came out, but I seen it quite young, probably a few years after it came out, and it was one of those films growing up for me where it was part of that core group of horror films that was just essential viewing. And I remember a lot of my friends talking about it, and they weren't allowed to watch it, but they wanted to watch it and stuff and blah, blah, blah. It was one of those kind of forbidden core horror films. And there was other ones like Exorcist and Nightmare on Elm Street, and The Omen was in there too. And you mentioned Poltergeist. It was another one that was part of that kind of group of 6 or 7 horror films when I was growing up, that it was just essential viewing. And whenever I got to see it, you know, I was kind of like, it was very, very scary as a kid watching it, seeing a doll come to life, because it's one of, as a kid, it's one of your number one scares, is something coming to life and trying to kill you. And I loved it. Yeah, I loved it when I was a kid. And I kind of, with the sequels, as the sequels came out year after year, or after every couple of years or whatever, and especially whenever The Bride came out and they went in a different direction, I kind of stopped watching it and kind of drifted away from it and became disenfranchised with it, because it didn't really do anything for me, and I thought they were ruining it a little bit. And I've sort of come back to it a little bit in recent years, and I've really sort of embraced the comedy, and I've embraced the silly stupidity of it all. And I think it's a really great franchise. There's still a couple that I haven't seen, but I'm going to now, since I've rewatched this one for this episode, I'm going to now go back and rewatch the whole franchise and just kind of enjoy it from start to finish. But yeah, it was, I have vivid memories of actually watching Child's Play 3 at a friend's house, and his parents must have been here or whatever, and we were watching it on video, lights off, you know, usual sort of Friday, Saturday night, snacks and everything like that. And it's absolutely terrified because his neighbour came to his back door and started knocking his back door. And it scared the fucking shit out of us, and we were like, what is going on here? So that was one of the first kind of memories of being scared at a horror film. It was fun, but yeah, that always stuck with me. But I love Chucky. Chucky's obviously an icon. Chucky's right up there with Freddy Krueger and, you know, Jason and Michael Myers. He's maybe not top 3, but he's top 5 for me.
He's definitely, even again, Chucky's one of these ones where you don't necessarily have to have seen anything to do with Child's Play. I mean, chances are there's a lot of people that don't even know that the Chucky movies are called Child's Play. They just know of Chucky. Like even his wee sister, who is 9, knows of Chucky. And you're like, you're a child. No, I mean, she's obsessed with horror, like, but she knows who Chucky is. And you're just like, Navy, you've not seen those movies. So it's like, yeah, but I know what Chucky is.
I know who Chucky is.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody knows about the killer doll thing. But I was going to say, so like, Gav, you're old enough that you were scared of your toys coming to life because of Child's Play, whereas I came in at a time when we had Toy Story and your toys were your friends. They came alive because you were your friends. I managed to avoid being afraid of my toys because I just sat and waited for them to come alive because You know,
Yeah.
you'd wait. You'd be like lying in bed going, "Come on, you bastards, fucking do something,
Yeah.
do something." Whereas God was sitting there like, "Please, God, no, don't kill
We
me."
had two different Andys. One had a nice childhood and one hadn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wonder,
yeah.
is there any connection?
100%. Yeah, there's like
Toy Story. Is that a thing?
I would definitely say that Toy Story was whoever came up with the concept of Toy Story at Pixar.
Yeah.
A little sprinkling of influence
was 100% had looked at Child's Play and thought, "Ooh,
what
if this was a thing where the actual toys came alive?" Obviously, they didn't have the voodoo supernatural soul transferring part.
I'd completely forgot about the whole voodoo thing in this film. So when that was happening, I was just like, "What?"
Yeah. It's weird because a lot of people who aren't really familiar with the film, they forget about it too. They just think Chucky's just this doll who's just a killer doll, but they actually forget that, you know, it's a serial killer who's transferred.
That is a white man appropriating black culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Bastard.
He's a bad guy.
So, Child's Play, not to be confused by the 1972 Sidney Lumet film called Child's Play, which I haven't seen. Joe, have you seen it?
I have a long time. Oh, it's okay.
I haven't seen it.
Is it in any way similar to this Child's Play? No,
it's the furthest thing that you would think it would be.
Okay.
It was co-written by Tom Holland. The original script was obviously written by Don Mancini. We'll get into Don Mancini in a wee bit. But the budget was about $9 million.
Yeah.
And it brought in 44 million worldwide. So I think it brought in about 30 million US and then, 14 odd million everywhere else, which is fucking massive for a horror film.
Some good figures there, guy.
In the late 80s, yeah. I mean, it was a massive film. It kicked off a whole entire franchise. Yeah. And it was a huge film for MGM, I think it was, who released it. Yeah. Tom Holland, though, amazing director of Fright Night, which I love. He also wrote the script for Psycho 2. He's directed a few other lots of films, but he's directed some Stephen King adaptations as well. He did Thinner, which
Thinner
isn't the greatest film. And what was the other one he did? He did The Langoliers. I know. Yeah. The Langoliers.
What's the Langoliers? What's the name? Never seen.
Danny,
never heard of it. The Langoliers.
God. When you come off this, just go
look up the Lang. I'm gonna look up where a Langolier is.
The only good thing I remember about it was Dean Stockwell was in it. Who was
David Morse.
That's right. Quantum Leap was in. And it's a very, very weird film, and probably not one of the greatest stories that Stephen King has written, and it certainly isn't one of the best adaptations.
No.
But yeah, so the original story was conceived by Don Mancini whenever he was in college. I believe he was at UCLA at the time, and the original script was very, very different to the script that we see, the film that we see, and there was quite a troubled history with this film. It's not really troubled, but it went through a couple of phases before it became the film that we know and love today. I love the cast though, because I think Catherine Hicks, as you mentioned, Joe, is fantastic in it.
She's great.
Who else is?
Chris Sarandon.
Chris Sarandon, of course. I was trying to remember the guy's name. Chris Sarandon from Fright Night is great in this as well as the cop, and of course our boy Brad Dourif, who is for me one of the greatest actors of his generation. And unfortunately, he maybe doesn't get the recognition that he deserves because he tends to play side parts or character parts, and he doesn't really play leading men, which is fine. But I mean, he's amazing in this. I've always loved him since One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and even more so whenever he played Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. He's amazing in that too, but he's fantastic in everything that he's in. Exorcist 3 as well. He's great in that.
So good.
He's just great in this, and he obviously plays the serial killer Charles Lee Ray at the start of the film, but then he gives his voice to the character Chucky, and he really does give Chucky character.
He gives that voice. I mean, to be honest, it's towards the end of the film where the puppeteering is really good for bringing a toy to life. But if it hadn't been for that voice acting, you would just literally be watching this toy like flop around the place. And if it had been shite voice acting, you'd be like, this is kind of a bit shit. But his voice really adds like this whole other like layer to it, which just really, again, as you say, brings that character to absolute life and gives it that kind of, again, I don't know what it is, like characters like Chucky and like Freddy, despite the fact that they are saying like really horrible shit, they still kind of have this awful charm about them, which you're kind of just like, what is it that appeals us to those characters? Why are they some of our favorite horror characters? Because they're horrible people, you know.
I think the thing is, it's easy to look back in retrospect and say that we love Freddy Krueger and we love Chucky. If you were watching these films for the first time and you didn't have the sequels, you probably wouldn't think like that. But because we know how the characters grow and evolve and become the characters that they do as, you know, each sequel's released, you know, that's why you love them. But yeah, I mean, Freddy Krueger was terrifying in the first one, and Chucky's pretty terrifying in this. And I probably wouldn't love Chucky as much if this was just a random standalone film and I didn't know that he evolved into the character that he became. Yeah. Also, sorry, go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to say about, see your wee man that plays Andy, he has some fucking fantastic bits of acting in this film. There's the one scene where his mum first kind of goes in to confront him about the Chucky doll, and he's saying to her like, oh, you know, he frightened her, he told me to do it, he just wanted to know what was on the news and all this. And then he kind of stops and just goes, okay, mommy, I understand, I shouldn't say these things. And he does this glance at the Chucky doll as if like assurance, and then looks back to her, and see that moment, just that wee quick glance that he did. I was like, fuck, that's again, he was probably told to do it, but it just it's a fantastic, just that one wee bit. I was like, oh, that boy's on to fucking something there, and it's fucking great. And then when he's crying later on in the asylum that has no fucking windows, just fucking holes in the wall with bars up, and again when he's like gurning about Chucky coming to kill him, I was like, this kid's fucking great, like fantastic performance.
Yeah, it is a great performance. Alex Vincent, isn't it?
Alex Vincent,
the guy's name, and he's a big actor on the con scene, isn't he? He's always on conventions and stuff. You've probably met him.
I'm meeting him next week.
Oh yes, is he going? He's going next week.
He's going to the con. Yeah,
and he always brings the Chucky doll, doesn't he? He's got that prop.
It's an actual screen used Chucky doll.
He's great in this. At the very start of the film, he's quite annoying. But when you get about 20 minutes in and shit starts to hit the fan, you think, fuck, this kid actually can act.
See him making that cereal. I was like,
I know.
Fucking stop with the milk.
You're right.
And
the sugar and stuff. And I was just like, you fucking. And then when he was walking and he was spilling the juice.
Spill it all over. We fucking Hallion.
My OCD was just
my man would have slapped the legs off me for carrying on like that.
I know. What a wee fucking shite. But he's great in this. He's really good in this. And there's a funny scene later on where he's trying to persuade the cop that Chucky's been speaking to him, and he's like, you know, telling Chucky to speak, and he won't speak, and he starts grabbing him, and he starts punching him and stuff, and you're just like, that's not bad acting. I wonder, did he sort of just wing that, or was he told to do it?
Ask him, Joe. See when you see him.
I know.
Ask him. You should be making notes of these questions.
Tell him about the Fright Club as well, and tell him that we're covering Child's Play.
Child's Play, if he ever cares to join us, we'd be more than happy to have him.
I will relay the message.
Thank you. So, obviously, we're talking about Child's Play because there is a new TV show coming out in a couple of weeks, just called Chucky. And I was talking a little bit there about the troubled history of the film and the franchise. It's been a bit of a weird one. Don Mancini and I think it's the producer, David Kirshner, still own the rights to the character and the story. And but MGM still own the rights to the first movie, so it's weird. They both kind of own rights, which is why they were able to do the remake recently a few years ago with Mark Hamill, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. We'll not get into that right now. But Don Mancini then obviously continued the franchise, and it's essentially one kind of linear story since the first film, and he's now continued it into TV, which I think is amazing. And like, you know, I think he deserves a lot of plaudits for doing that, because 30 years he's been working on Child's Play. There's 7 films in total, and then a new TV show, which I think is going to be 8 or 10 episodes. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited. Have you seen the trailer for the?
I have.
TV show. It looks good, man.
It does look good. It does look.
It looks good. I'm excited for it. I didn't think it would be, and then I was kind of like, oh, you know, I'm not sure.
Is it going to be original voice, or is it going to be Mark?
Oh yes, voice? It's proper original cast.
Oh no,
it's got nothing to do with the remake. No, that was an MGM thing that they failed. They wanted to do a couple of years ago. They brought it. Apparently, they did bring it to Don and David Kirshner, and they said, look, we'd love used to be involved with this, and he was like, nah, look, we're doing our own thing. Because I mean, they've been working on it for 30 years, and they've continued, you know, they've done sequels, and they've continued the story. And I read in an interview recently where Don was like, you know, he doesn't really harbor any bad feelings towards him, but he thought it was a little bit of a slap in the face that they came and said, we want to remake the first film. And he was like, no, we're continuing this story, mate. So see you later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about how the film came into production, because I'm just fascinated by Mancini and how this whole film happened, because this was only his second feature film that he wrote. And he was inspired to write this because his father worked in advertising and marketing, and the original idea and the original script was supposed to be sort of satire, supposed to be a look, kind of tongue-in-cheek look into consumerism in the 1980s, and especially marketing and consumerism aimed at young children, which is obviously massive, you know, the toy lines and all that sort of stuff. And he wanted this to be a kind of satirical look into that field, because he had some experience in that, because his father worked in advertising. He had the idea of a killer doll because he was a big fan of like the likes of Trilogy of Terror, and I think he was also influenced by The Living Doll, the Twilight Zone episode, The Living Doll.
Talking Tina.
Yeah. Why is everybody influenced by Twilight Zone episodes? Like everything that's ever been made has been influenced by a Twilight Zone episode. That's mad.
Yeah.
But he was also influenced by Cabbage Patch Kids. I think there was lots of toys in the 80s and stuff, and also the Garbage Pail Kids, which was kind of like a spin-off of that, kind of like a weird spin-off of that. He was influenced by that, and he wanted to make a killer doll film, but in his original scripts there was a lot of ambiguous scenes where you didn't know if it was Andy that was doing this, doing these murders, or whether it was the doll. And it was supposed to play off that throughout the whole script, and it was more of a mystery, kind of who done it type script. And I'm not unsure how it ended, because I can't remember if I read how it ended, but that was basically the idea of the script. And he eventually optioned it, and it got sold to MGM, United Artists, and then he was sort of pushed aside a little bit, and people stepped in to take over the script. And it was a screenwriter called John LaFia who came in, and I don't think he had written in before, or nothing major, and he rewrote the script, and he changed the name of the doll to Chucky, and because I think they originally called it Buddy, which is weird because in the remake he's called Buddy, isn't he? It's My Buddy doll, with an I. They had to change that because there was an actual doll called My Buddy, and obviously they couldn't use it. So but the original title of it was called Batteries Not Included as well, which is a is a weird one, because obviously the year that it went into production was the year that film Batteries Not Included. Right? The year prior was 1987, which is, you know, big. Well, that was a big film in my childhood, just because it was so sort of fantastical. It was Amblin, wasn't it? It was Steven Spielberg.
It was,
and I think Brad Bird wrote the screenplay.
He did,
and Mick Garris, I think, was involved in the screenplay as well. Or he didn't direct it, did he, Mick Garris? I think he wrote the script. I'm not sure if he
No, he wrote
directed
the
it.
script. I don't think. Can't remember who directed that. I don't remember.
I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. But I just love the story of how the script came together and how it went through the different versions of it, because it then changed again whenever Tom Holland came on board. And I actually listened to an interview with Tom Holland, and I would advise you guys to go and check it out. I don't know if you listen to Mick Garris's podcast.
I do.
Postmortem. One of the best podcasts out there.
They're great.
Honestly, he had both Tom Holland and Don Mancini on at different times, because I don't know if Tom and Don are the best of friends, but I recently listened to both in research for this episode, and I don't think that they're the best of friends. But anyway, Tom Holland then had to rewrite the script. He said he spent about a year rewriting the script, and some of the changes that he made was he brought in the Charles Lee Ray character, because originally there was no, it was just, it was very ambiguous. There was no good guy or no bad guy. Good guy. But there was none of that. So he said that there wasn't really a character to root for, and he really wanted an evil character rather than it just be a random doll. He wanted some sort of evil character where people wanted to shout at the screen and say no, 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 and he introduced this serial killer called Charles Lee Ray. And do you know who he was named after? Joe, you might know. No. So 3 of the most famous serial killers ever, well, not serial killers, but assassinators ever, or madmen. Charles Manson.
I did hear this. I tell a lie. I did hear this.
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson.
Lee Harvey Oswald,
and the third one was
James Earl Ray. Who shot Martin Luther King. So they put those names together and they created this character, who was obviously played amazingly by Brad Dourif. I just love that whole look as well, the long black hair and the big long sort of woolen coat, right down to his feet, and also we were talking about Chucky's voice. Here's another fact. Now, again, you guys might know this. I didn't know this. Brad Dourif was not the original voice.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
So he was cast as Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah.
Originally, they wanted to have just like sort of robotic, kind of typical kind of toy voice, generic toy voice for Chucky, and then they realized, no, we need to have something there because you can't really emote any sort of emotions or personal vendetta through a voice when it's just robotic. Yeah. So they spoke about having an actor do it. Brad Dourif at the time couldn't do it because after he had recorded or had filmed the scenes, was away busy doing some other film, and I can't remember what the film is. But he couldn't do it, so they got an actress. Guess fucking who it was?
Bart Simpson.
No. Jessica Walter.
Really?
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Do you know who Jessica Walter is, Danny?
No.
You probably do. If you've watched Arrested Development. Lucille Booth.
Did you ever see play Misty for Me?
She passed away, actually, sadly.
She did.
It was earlier this year, wasn't it? She passed away.
Earlier this year, yeah.
I think she passed away in her sleep. She was about 80 years old. But she plays Lucille Bluth in Arrested Development, so the matriarch of the Bluth family.
Yeah. It's on my to watch list whenever.
Have you not watched? I thought you did watch Arrested Development.
No, I keep meaning to watch. I just haven't got around to it yet.
I thought you did, man. Good. That's why I said that, because I thought you had watched it.
Get it? No, unfortunately not. But it will. There will come a time.
It's great. It's a very weird show, but it's very original and it's great.
It is.
So she recorded dialogue for Chucky, and the reason why they wanted her to do it was because of The Exorcist. Mercedes McCambridge famously did the voice for Pazuzu in The Exorcist, and she was a slightly older lady, and I think they wanted to have that kind of weird voice sort of effect type thing where it would be kind of otherworldly. But apparently, whenever she recorded her voice or dialogue for Chucky in the test screenings, they realized that it didn't work, so they knew they had to re-record the voiceover, and they eventually got Brad Dourif to do it, and he's amazing, and he's been Chucky ever since. So it was a good choice in the end. I don't think Jessica. I was reading something before coming on this call. I don't think Jessica Walter has ever really spoken about that, because I think that was only revealed not that long ago, like a couple of years ago. And I think it was a thing where it was kind of sort of secret and hidden until a few years ago. So that's interesting. I wonder, did she sort of feel kind of shunned or something? I don't know. Maybe she did.
Can you listen to her audio anywhere, or is it
I don't think there's any recordings. It was just cut. It was cut in post, and I don't think it's ever been released. But that would be weird. That would be strange.
That would be interesting to see. Yeah,
it would be very interesting to see if there is some sort of audio, or even just the audio, not necessarily to the film, but it would be very interesting to see. But I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah,
it's weird. That's just weird. It's weird to me.
You never knew that.
I know. But Mancini was a big fan of disaster movies, and he wanted to get into the business because he was a big fan of the Poseidon Adventure. And he loved Tar and Inferno and stuff, and he made the connection between disaster movies and the magic of cinema, and then he loved the special effects of it. So I think that's what kind of made him kind of lean towards kind of genre movies, I suppose. And then he ended up writing this script when he was very young and selling it, and he kind of, I think he went away after this and wrote another script for Charles Band.
Charlie Band.
Charlie Band's Empire Pictures. We've covered a couple of Charlie Band films, Reanimator and Ghoulies as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Ghoulies, okay.
I'll put a link up there for Ghoulies and Reanimator. And Cellar Dweller, I've never seen it. Have you seen it, Joe?
I have seen it, yeah.
It's apparently pretty awful. I don't know.
It is. Oh, it's
good or just awfully bad?
Just awfully bad. Awfully bad. Yeah, I bought it. I got it in DVD because it was one of the ones I hadn't seen. And I read the cast. And I mean, okay, there's some genre faces in here. Put the disc on, and it was like, I wish this was over.
Really?
I really wish this was over. It's so fucking bad.
Oh well, I'll get around to it at some point. But yeah, from an interview I listened to of Don Mancini, I don't think he was too proud of it. Although he did say that, as he got a little bit older, you kind of look back on those kind of early days and you think, do you know what? It was still something that he completed, and it made a film. He made a film basically, and he's saying that sometimes when he goes to conventions, he'll still get people coming up to him with the Cellar Dweller, special edition or whatever, and he has to sign it. And he's like, "Do you really like this film?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, I fucking love this shit." So yeah, people love that shit.
Yeah. Watching it, I could tell. There's a small cult fandom for this movie who appreciate it for what it is. As I just for me, it was just like, it was bland for me. But I've seen it once. I could maybe rewatch it and maybe change my mind. I don't know.
We'll check it out at some point.
Yeah,
I think most Charles Band films are worth watching just because they're fucking silly. Like,
oh yeah, I when I hear Charlie Brown's name, I smile because you're either going to be really entertained or very bitterly disappointed.
I still think whether you like it or not, you're still going to be entertained.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God, yeah. Probably Charlie Band. I think it was before he done Empire Pictures. It might have been just before he done Empire, but he was involved in Reanimator.
Yeah, he produced it.
Yeah. So that could be his claim to fame. Well,
Reanimator is probably one of the better ones that he did.
Oh, by a long shot. Yeah.
So before Tom Holland came on, there was a few other directors that were involved. Irvin Kershner was involved.
Irvin Kershner.
Which, that would have been a very strange
guy. Yeah.
I know. That would have been a very strange version of Chucky.
Chucky with lightsabers.
I know.
Bring his whole Empire Strikes Back.
No!
Yoda appearing in the background.
I know. William Friedkin was also tied to. I don't know how close he was to making it.
Would have been interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been weird. And Joe Rubin as well. Who did Stepfather?
He's done Stepfather, yeah.
Yeah. But he's quite an accomplished director as well. He is.
He was
linked to it as well. And before Brad Dourif was actually officially cast, Apparently John Lithgow was
John was attached. Yeah,
he was attached to it. Now I don't know how close he got to signing, but he was one of the names that was attached. He's a fucking amazing actor.
Yeah,
and he's obviously he's known for his kind of dad roles and all that sort of stuff, but he's really good at being a villain.
Him and Dexter. Fuck.
Oh,
that's right. He was in Dexter, man.
What a season of Dexter. When
great.
He actually probably is the best villain from Dexter.
I always remember him from. There was a film back in I think the early 90s. He played a villain. It was called Ricochet, starring Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I remember Ricochet.
I had it on. Like I taped off Sky one night. I had loads of videos just taped off the TV, and that was the first time that I can really remember seeing John Lithgow as a villain. Yeah. And also Santa Claus as well.
Yeah. Would you ever see what's it called, Raising Cain?
Oh, years ago, man. Yeah.
Oh,
classic.
Yeah, it's just John till 11. Just crouch it up.
He's so good. He's so good at being a villain. But yeah, one of the things we spoke about briefly at the start was the puppetry and stuff, and like, Danny, come on, we love our fucking puppets.
We fucking love
Joe. We love our animatronics.
Practical.
They're great. They are great.
I love how this film progresses, and the good guy doll starts. The idea is becoming more and more human, but you see that change in like the structure of the mouth and the way the eyes are, and even the hair seems to change entirely. And when Joe, you said earlier about when Andy's mum first picks him up and the head turns around, and it's the first time you really see the change in the Chucky face from the start of the film, when it's just like the standard good guy doll. And
it's great.
Class.
Yeah.
So they made various dolls. I don't know how many they made, but I know they made like loads of them. And Kevin Yeager was in charge of the puppeteering team. He's an absolute legend. He worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and 3, and he's done loads of other stuff. But he was actually in a relationship with Catherine Hicks at the time. And I want to say they got married as well. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think they get married. Yeah, I think they did.
But he's an absolute special effects wizard. He does puppets. He does makeup. He's done a lot of stuff. He's worked in loads of horror movies and science fiction movies over the year. Legend. But just the animatronics in this is, for me, they were a bit ahead of their time, because it was pre-CGI, so everything was filmed in in camera, and they had to use different animatronics with different heads that could do different things. They had a stationary doll, which obviously just stood still, and the arms didn't move, the legs didn't move, the head didn't move. They had a couple of different animatronic dolls where they could move the faces and stuff, and then obviously they had the burnt one at the end.
The burnt one, I want to shout and kill him, and the wee lips are going, the wee teeth and the wee eyes, and the wee, are freaking out.
Just the wee fucking snub, the wee hands just crawling like that. That's unreal. That's class, man.
It is good. It is good.
But the techniques that Tom Holland and his team used to create Chucky, I think was ahead of its time in many ways. They weren't the first people to use animatronics. They weren't the first people to use POV, but they kind of combined it all together to create this amazing visual feast. And as I was watching it, I was kind of thinking, like, man, it just all is seamless. Usually sometimes you can tell, oh, that's a puppet, or that's a a little person in a costume, or a child actor, or whatever you want, whatever you think. But it really works well as a seamless, performance from Chucky. And it's kind of hard to differentiate between what's a puppet and what's, the child actor. What was the actor? Who was the actor, Joe, that was Chucky? Ed Gale? Ed Gale, I think, was his name.
Yeah.
He played Chucky in some scenes. But I think
running up the stairs in the asylum.
Yeah. Yes.
That's
the far
very
away
clearly
scene.
A person in a costume.
Yes, that was maybe the only one, because obviously when he's looking out the window, you see him going up the stairs, and But I think the forced perspectives that they used as well. This was before Lord of the Rings, so it was before forced perspective became sort of common. But I just think what they did there was amazing, and that was all out of Tom Holland and his team, who came on and said, this is how we're going to sort of attack this. And it could have been easy for them to just have you know, a crappy puppet that just kind of the mouse didn't really move and it was just the voice over the top, but it really works, and that's one of the things that makes Chucky come alive.
Mm.
And I love the POV shots. Just that's Jaws. Like I obviously love Jaws. Like
great. Yeah,
can't be the POV stuff. The scene where Chucky really sort of comes to life for me is whenever he's going to visit his like former like voodoo teacher.
Yeah.
And see that, and he's
John.
just like, John, what do you think?
Over here, John.
Like, that just like that, his voice comes to life in that scene. The puppet comes to life in that scene. That's when you kind of really get to see that Chucky character in all its glory. And just the whole thing about you shouldn't tell people where you keep your voodoo stuff, John. He's got the voodoo doll, and you're just like, fuck, this is great. What a fantastic scene.
What was it about the fucking 80s that was people were just obsessed with voodoo?
Like, love their voodoo. Yeah.
It's fucking hell. It must have just been like a new thing. It wasn't like it was a new thing because, you know, it's been around for years and years in cinema and stuff, but I don't know. It was new to the Western culture, I suppose, maybe. But that scene where he goes to visit the voodoo guys, unreal.
Yeah.
You know, I just love the animatronics. I love the puppets. I love Angry Chucky. I love whenever he starts to actually come alive properly. And whenever Karen, the mother, is about to, when she finds out, obviously no batteries, etc., and then she's going to burn him in the fireplace. Yeah. And he just suddenly is like, freaks. And then all of a sudden he just fucking turns on and starts freaking out. Yeah. What is it? He calls her a fucking slut.
Bitch, you stupid fucking bitch.
I just love his voice. I think his voice is unreal. Like it's really.
It is.
Brad Dourif can do a really good angry voice. Fucking scary, man.
There's something that's still kind of. I think there's almost like that kind of. I don't want to say it's not like. It's like a kind of almost that Chicago kind of. Gangster voice, but it's not gangster. You know, it's just it's a crime guy voice that he has, and it along with this doll, this childlike doll, it's just so contradictory. But as the film progresses and his hair changes, he's got his wee knife and stuff, and the deranged look that you get in the puppet's eyes after a while, it works so well. And I just love that voice. I love, as you say, that progression of character in the doll is incredible. And again, how are they able to do it with a doll?
I know.
They do it, but how? It's absolutely amazing. I love just
magic, Danny. Magic.
Movie magic.
One
of my favorite things is like how colorful. So Gav, you're wearing the good guy t-shirt and it's like bright yellow, and the imagery is lovely, real like nice hand drawn stuff, and I think it's fantastic. And as you say, it's all about like commercialism and trying to draw children in. We get to see like the cartoon and then the trailer talking about like you can get your own good guy doll, and it's like a guy dressed up in like a good guy mascot outfit, which to be fair I think is more terrifying than the actual Chucky doll.
I had a big giant head,
with a big massive like fabric head. But the thing that got me that made me laugh, because the commercial aspect of like 80s toys and stuff, but then also kind of foreshadowed a lot. One of the first things when Charlie's sort of like stumbling through the toy store and he's kind of going past all the like accessories for the good guy doll, and he stumbles into all the good guy dolls, the main accessory that really, really stands out behind Charlie in one of the scenes just before he falls into all the dolls is the good guy automatic assault rifle. And I was just like, you know, you've got your tools and your gardening and all your nice stuff, all your good boy things, and then you've got gun, violence, and even the fact that that's part of like the on the wee like apron, it's got like a gun on it, like
it's on the shoe as well,
and it's on the shoes, which is the shoe print on the counter. And I just thought, I was kind of like, this is some serious foreshadowing, but also a really big comment about like what sort of toys, what kind of stuff was being advertised to kids at that time, because toy guns back then were the norm. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us had a toy gun at some point. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting that was sort of one of the main accessories you see at the start of the film.
I love the start to this film. I love the chase. I love when it opens up in the street. It's a dark street. You see his image, the shadowy image, and he's getting chased in a big shootout and stuff. And I love the fact that he goes into a toy store. And yeah, Danny, you're right. Like growing up, big toy stores, you know, like sort of kind of old school toy stores, I suppose we could call them. And you had your guns, all your army stuff. They sold like Predator toys and Alien toys. Like, what kids were watching fucking Alien? Why were they selling toys?
Do you remember? Do you remember? I'm gonna send us back to a bygone era.
Please do.
Do you remember when Cameron's? They used to have the boys section and the girls section.
Yes. And
the boys section had that like metal flooring that led you up to the action men and the Jurassic Park toys and all the Power of the Force figures.
Yes.
And it was just like, I'm a rough and tough boy in a rough and tough boys toy section. And it was just talking about that there and about the kind of toys you had. And yes, Predator, RoboCop, Aliens, all those stuff that were toys that really you probably shouldn't have been toys because you shouldn't have been watching those kind of films at like 5 and 6 years old.
I didn't have any Aliens toys, so it was maybe a little bit before me. I definitely had
those like
Aliens,
animals toys.
I definitely had the RoboCop series. I definitely 100% had RoboCop toys, and you know, it's like, man, kids should not be watching these films, and why are they being marketed towards kids? Do you know what I mean? It's mad. But still, what I wouldn't do to go back 30 years just to visit the old Cameron store,
the old Cameron toy store.
They're just not the same.
It's just not like it used to be.
Not like it was back in my day, boy.
Back in my day, sure, you'd shot your brother with an AK-47, no bother.
I know. Yes. But yeah, so apparently this movie was very controversial when it came out. Who would have thunk it?
Couldn't imagine why.
When it first came out, there was, I don't know how controversial, there was large protests. I don't know how disrupting they were to. They obviously weren't because it made a lot of money. But I think whenever Part 3 came out, it was in the news quite a lot because I think Part 3 came out in 92 or 93. Maybe it was a little bit before that, I'm not sure. But I don't know if you guys remember the murder of a little boy called James Bulger.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I remember.
That was the first big news story when I was a kid. Like that's, you know, when you think what's the first big news story that you remember when you're a kid, it was his murder, and it was a fucking horrible, horrible story, and blah blah blah. We'll not get into it, but this Part 3 was cited as being a sort of inspiration, and I think there was another death of a child around that time, and I can't remember the name. It didn't quite get as much news as the James Bulger story, but apparently one of the kids. It was, by the way, it was the murderers were kids in both of these cases. They were both kids in these cases, and the kid who murdered the other child apparently was like, "Hi, my name is Chucky. You want to play?" So obviously, you know, there was some sort of inspiration there, and obviously these kids were, you know, horrible, horrible fucking kids to do this. But yeah, it's weird how some movies can just kind of go into kids' heads. I mean, obviously the whole, you know, horror movies being bad is bullshit in the general sense of things. But yeah, it's kind of horrible that was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it really hunted the franchise, because I know there was a bit of time between Part 3 and the next movie, which was
Bride.
Bride was the next one.
Bride, yeah.
There was quite a few years between those two, wasn't there?
About 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
5 years, yeah.
And it feels like, even though they're all is all one long franchise, it does sort of feel like the first 3 movies are kind of part of one franchise, and then the other 4 or 5 movies are a separate franchise. But yeah, so one of the other things I love about this film was the poster as well. So the DVD case and stuff, and a lot of the kind of posters you see now is that one where Chucky's holding the knife and he's sort of like that.
Yeah.
That's not the one that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the original cinema poster.
The one with the eyes.
Yeah, it was just a big apartment block and you see the eyes in the sky, and there's like the lightning strike that comes down at the start of the film, and I just think it's such a foreboding poster. Whenever you see it,
seen that one. I don't think I've ever seen that image before.
Whenever you see it, you kind of go, you know, you don't even see Chucky, and you're kind of like, what is this film about?
What's
you know
this?
What I mean?
Yeah.
Which I like. I like that kind of idea where, you know, you look at a poster and you maybe don't know exactly what kind of film you're getting yourself into when you watch it.
Exactly.
But I think that was quite an early poster, and it was the idea that, you know, the original idea wasn't really going to be focused on the doll so much. There was kind of another bit of a story there, and I think as they rewrote the scripts and stuff, they knew that they had to focus on the doll, and I think apparently they did cut a lot out, much to Tom Holland's chagrin, of the dramatic acting from Catherine Hicks and the cop as well, Chris Sarandon. Yeah, there was a lot of other things going on there, and they ended up just cutting a lot of scenes out because they wanted to kind of focus more on the fact that, you know, it was about a killer doll, which I suppose for a genre movie, you know, you kind of have to do that, which you have to sacrifice that for a genre movie because it wouldn't have worked otherwise.
I like the kind of crime whodunit element you mentioned earlier about the original script was more about, you know, is it the doll or is it Andy? And I really like that notion, but obviously because of the start of the film, you kind of gather that it's going to be the doll.
Yeah.
Had you not got it, and again, the start is class. But had you not had it, and you were left thinking between the two, and then you get that kind of murder mystery who did it element, I think it'd be great. You know, I really enjoyed those elements of it.
Yeah, I agree with you there, actually. As much as I love the opening and the over-the-topness of the whole transferring your soul via voodoo spells and stuff, the kind of ambiguous storytelling that could have happened had they kept that element into it, because there's a lot of this script, or a lot of this film, you see Chucky just whispering to Andy, where you don't actually hear Chucky talking. And obviously that was done because they didn't get the dialogue recorded or whatever. But there's a lot of times where Andy leans in, and you just see sort of Chucky whispering to him. And I like that idea because you kind of also think, is Chucky really speaking to him? But yeah, the whole start of the film blows out of the water, really. And I like the idea. I wish that they had kept the suspense at the start of the movie a little bit more, between the time where they buy the doll and Andy first starts talking to him, and then whenever Karen finds out that, he is real. I wish they had kind of expanded that a little bit more and made, they could have done a little bit more with that. But, again, they've only got sort of, 90 minutes really to work with. Yeah. What's your favorite scenes?
Joe, do you want to, as our guest, would you like to go first?
Obviously, I like when Chucky first reveals himself with the no batteries. Really like that. I really, really like the ending when he goes through all the different stages of getting shot, burned, just bit by bit by bit by bit, because you see it for the first time and you're like, right, he has to be dead. He has to be dead now. And then there's always something like, it's great because I showed it to a friend of mine about a year ago. He had never seen it, and we watched it, and he was enjoying it, and he jumped every single time there was a different part of Chucky. And then there's that final scene in the bedroom when Chris Sarandon's partner comes up.
Yes.
And he's like, it was the doll, and he's
got the head, and he's like, look, it's just a head.
Yeah, he's like, look, it ain't worth, and then it's the arm, the hand comes out of the vent. And my friend was like, Jesus Christ, what? Is this thing ever going to, and I just love that, because it's like a domino effect. It's like, it's all these different elements to it. So I love that. And there's one scene, and I just adore it. And it tips his hat to the audience. It's when Chucky goes down the elevator, and there's the man and the woman. And she looks at her husband, and she goes, what an ugly doll. Then he's like, fuck you.
Hello.
Yeah. I love that. It's just
some kids left their doll here. Ugh.
Yeah. What an ugly. And she's so posh. It's like, what an ugly doll. And she goes off. And he's like,
it's just it's just ascending away and fuck you as it goes. Yeah, it was funny. It's I enjoyed that. That actually did give me a laugh. My favorite scenes are when he goes to see his voodoo teacher, when he goes to see John, would be one of my favorites.
How's John?
How's John? How's John, the voodoo man?
How's John from down the road?
Yes, Sir Jude, it'll give you a cure for your sore foot, no bother. But
for a pint.
But yeah, I love that scene. As I said, I think that's the scene where you really get to see Chucky come to life, and I like the whole kind of, you know, when he's sort of being told like how he needs to carry on living. You know, it sort of said you're becoming more human, and if you stay in this body, you'll be stuck like that.
Adds a bit of backstory as well to Charles Lee Ray.
Really adds to it. It's the fucking, see the bit whenever he finds out that he's got to transfer into the body of the person he first revealed to. And Chucky's just like, well, looks like I got a date with the 6-year-old boy. And you're like, stop, you dirty diddler. Is it bad enough that you've been saying you like hugs from him? Now you want to be inside him, you
sleep in his bed.
Bastard. But yeah, I really like, I think that there was a fantastic scene. And I even like whenever Chucky's left and Andy's mom and the cop turn up and your fella's lying down, he's like, you've got to get him in the heart, and you don't actually realize how important that line is until you get to the end and they're trying to take him out and they're just not getting the heart, and you're kind of just the whole time, like the whole time that scene was going on, I was like, fucking shoot him in the heart. Just get his heart. You were told, your fella told you that you have to hit him in the heart, and you aren't doing it.
Do you know why? Because fucking Chris Sarandon, fucking our legs vampire here is like, no, don't we go near the fucking heart? Like,
don't fuck with heart.
He's got fucking PTSD from Fright Night.
I've been here before.
Well, you know, I don't like it. I really like that there. And then I was wondering, so you know when you know the way Andy's ma has to stay and work, so her friend goes to look after Andy, and that whole scene, like, it's nice, and it's that kind of typical, like, you know, babysitters looking after the Wayne, and the Wayne's misbehaving, and the Chucky doll's in front of the TV because he wants to see the news, because he's obviously a serial killer and they love to watch their news stories and stuff. Like, again, I think that's fantastic. I think it shows an understanding of like how a serial killer mind works and stuff. I was kind of intrigued by that. Like, I want to know what the news is saying about me.
And his mate, because he's trying to find out about his mate who
trying to find out about his partner. And again, that's I was just about to get on that scene as well. But the thing I was asking myself about the scene, so obviously it's all from the POV of Chucky when he goes to like murder the ma's friend. And the thing I was asking myself, the fuck puts a real hammer in a kid's toy playset? Yeah. Like, yes, it's a tiny hammer, but it's still a real hammer.
It's not plastic. Like.
Yeah, it's not a plastic hammer. It's a real hammer. So it's kind of like, right, okay, whoever's making them good guy toys needs to have a serious word with themselves. But that scene where he goes after his partner, and again, we haven't properly seen the Chucky doll like move about. It's Andy's like, oh, I have to go tinkle, and goes off. And Chucky's in the rocking chair, and then when it cuts back, the rocking chair's rocking, but he's out of it. And then we cut into the house, and again, it's not necessarily that we're getting POVs, but we're getting like wee movements, but then it's rats, and then there's other wee movements and stuff, and then you see the oven dial being turned, and I thought that was a fantastic, and again, really sort of tense, creepy moment, because then his partner wakes up and is like looking around, and then you get that close up of the gunshot, and then outside the house the whole fucking thing
just explodes
and then collapses in around itself. And I was just like, that was actually just again some great nice close-ups of everything that was going on, and you're kind of wondering, right, is this the doll or is it the rats or what's going on? Really like that scene, like the way that was put together.
I like the scenes where it's all implying that Chucky's doing stuff. As I said earlier, I wish they had expanded that and stretched out a wee bit further. A lot of films after this film would do that. You look at like Annabelle and all those kind of films that play around with the dolls, or was it Dead Silence and stuff like that. They play around with the whole sort of, they make it more tense. And I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. I love the scene where basically the scene that you just mentioned, Danny, where Chucky kills his ex-partner. I think it's fucking brilliant. It's hilarious as well, because your man's just running around with a gun, and he just starts firing fucking bullets off. He clearly knows Yeah, he clearly knows that he's a bad boy and that people are after him. So he blows himself up basically because he shoots the oven.
Yeah,
but
silly goose.
I just think the start of the film, the first 20 minutes is just hilarious.
Yeah,
like you get that awesome scene at the start where Brad Dourif does the whole voodoo stuff and voodoo, hoodoo, whatever. That's just so over the top. It's unreal. You get the lightning strike. That's fucking unreal as well.
It blows up an entire toy
I know.
store.
Yeah.
I think all the toys, man, are just
them
burning away.
Her toys just ruined.
And then you get the introduction of a very important character, the peddler.
The peddler.
It's the peddler.
The peddler.
The peddler. When later on, when Andy's man goes to confront him again.
Oh yeah.
No.
Bad bastard.
Hey,
yeah.
That's
what more you got to offer. What more you got to offer? And you're like,
There's a great scene as well just before that when she's going to look for the peddler, and she's like, there's a bit of a montage happens where she goes to different
motherfucking montage.
She goes to the bad part of town and she goes to all these different kind of homeless sites, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
And you know why they're homeless? Because they've always got those big fires in the big fucking
barrel thing.
And
big
gloves.
Yeah.
I know, and they're always
the fingers of the gloves.
They're always looking, going like this, and it's funny because she's walking up and she's like, obviously indicating
there's no audio.
It's just a montage of her talking to homeless people, and she's like, teeth.
He's got really dirty teeth. Really dirty.
I know, and then I'm so sad you don't know who he is, and people just shaking their head, no, never seen him.
None of them know.
Fucking the peddler, what a character he is. I want a spin-off of just the peddler.
Of the dirty diddle peddler.
Sure. The peddler. Yeah. I'm gonna write that script, man. I swear to God.
Please do.
The peddler.
Dirty peddler.
Dirty peddler.
Dirty peddler.
Also, like, he got that from the toy store that blew up, obviously. So he stole the Chucky doll. What happened to all the other toys,
Chucky dolls. He could have had a plethora of Chucky dolls.
There was literally fucking hundreds of Chucky dolls, you know what I mean? I wonder if
he had to pick the one cursed one.
And I'm guessing that he got a few and he sold them on eBay. And this was just a wee.
This one had
was
a
left
blood
over.
smear on its head. He couldn't
Exactly.
sell that on eBay. No way.
And also, I'm not a parent. I don't have a child. I never really want to have children. Kids are cunts. But anyway.
Especially when they ruin breakfast.
Hello, you fucking shitbag. But if I was a parent, now if my kid really wanted something for his birthday or Christmas or whatever, I understand, I know myself now because obviously of my job, but I understand that kids, they want everything, and parents want to give them everything. They want to be the best parents they can be. However, would you be so desperate that you would buy a used toy off some fucking gimpy peddler in a back alley, and the box was fucked? God knows what he had done to that fucking thing, and she didn't even inspect it. She just fucking gave it to him.
It's not even that. Like, fair enough. A parent will do anything to get them the toy, and if they can get it at half price, they don't have to spend $100, spend $50. Like, fair enough. You're going to do it. You're going to get it at the cheaper rate. The thing that fucking bothered me, and it's just you mentioned about the birthday present, and it fucking pissed me off to no end. Andy is pure buzzing about the big box. This big box that just so happens to be the exact same size as a good guy doll. And sure, she goes, "Oh, come on, and we'll open your birthday presents. I bet you're really excited." And he's like, "I sure am."
Open the big one first.
Rips it open. Oh no, she goes, "I think you should open the little one first." And he's just like, nope, we're opening that big one.
Yeah, he's like,
and he opens it. It's fucking clothes. And I was like, who puts a load of clothes in a box that size? You are just setting yourself up for a disappointed Wayne.
Let's be honest, we've all been there though. When your dad's bought you clothes as a kid, and you're like,
they give it to you in a box that big though.
No, that's true.
They never give it to you in a box the size of a good guy doll. Like, honestly, I was just losing my shit. I was like, Karen, you have set yourself up for defeat here.
It's almost like she did it on purpose. She fucking teased him. She handed him. She tanked the car and she was like,
so she could be like,
getting a Brussels Sprite instead.
She was, and this is the way she kind of explained it. She's trying to be like all nicey with him and just like look.
Yeah.
And then she gets too real with him. Like, this child is what, like 5, and she's going, Andy, I'll tell you what it is. I wasn't able to save up enough this month.
Yeah.
You're like, who talks like that to their child? Who explains the importance of money to a 5-year-old child like that? I wasn't able to afford it this month. You're just gonna have to fucking hold on.
Because they just announced it because you got it on the advertisement, didn't you? Oh, now you can have your own Good Guys doll. And also,
and he's like looking at it's the way he's got his wee tray spilling all over the place.
And then he looks over at the box and he's like, But it's funny because that whole opening scene where he's being a messy wee bastard. Fucking cunt.
Ruining the kitchen.
I know. And he's fucking lifting the sugar and the whatever. And then he's making a fucking mess. And what a wee bastard.
The toast. And it's when he goes, when he puts the butter on the toast and it just pure blops on, you're like, right, you should be wise enough to know that's not how you put on butter. Come on, Andy, wise up.
He's obsessed with Good Guys because he's wearing the Good Guy clothes. Mm-hmm. He's got the
watching the show.
He's watching the show. It's everywhere. There's Good Guys fucking everywhere. Mm-hmm. Fuck's sake. Ripped off. And he thought he was getting a doll. Fuck you, Andy.
I was just like, who honestly puts a load of clothes in a box that big?
One of my favorite. I know. One of my favorite scenes. Go ahead.
No, Carmen was thinking. January sales.
Aye, 100%.
Yeah.
Not even Boxing Day sales.
Not looking, you know.
No, wait, it wasn't for Christmas. It was for his birthday. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of set winter time, so.
Aye, you're right.
Maybe he's one of those sad kids that has his birthday near Christmas.
I know.
And they merged them together. You know that one?
The worst. Mm-hmm. December. I feel so sorry for those December babies. Mm-hmm.
But there was an episode a couple of weeks ago, Danny. I can't remember what it was. We were talking about the sort of family environment and how we were saying that a lot of these horror stories are built around single parents. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what the film was we were talking about at the time, but I think I mentioned something about, you know, it's quite a common trope, and she's a struggling mum.
She is a struggling man. She's got to do those extra hours. She's got to get the money in.
She works in a department store. And what about her fucking boss as well? What a ball bag he was.
The guy with the glasses. Yeah.
What?
That's it. Fucking.
And what is it? It's when her friend tries to step in and be like, "Look, I'll cover for her. Let her go home and be with her son." And he's like, "You don't work jewelry, do you?" Yeah. And you're like, "Oh, that's cold. What a mean old bastard." What about actually? And this is the one thing that I was kind of when we were just talking about the single parent and stuff. It's because Andy's dad is dead, which I was kind of like, oh. And it's not something that's really brought up at all throughout the whole film until that one wee moment where Andy's explaining to his mum, Chucky was sent by my dad from heaven to be with me. And you're just kind of like, that's really sweet. But then you're also kind of like, well, how did Chucky know?
This is why I think they've cut a lot out, because I think it's supposed to imply that obviously Andy and Chucky are having conversations. There's a great fucking line. It was one of the greatest lines in the whole fucking thing, where after is it Maggie, her friend Maggie dies, after she dies, and the ma's like, you know, by the way, the ma took that pretty well, considering, you know, she's getting the cops all out of the house and stuff, and you're like, oh, she's like, your friend literally just died, and it was your fault because you asked your friend to look after your kid in your apartment. And if you didn't do that, your friend would still be living. So you're taking it pretty well, a little bit too well for my liking. But anyway, she's talking to Andy, and Andy's like,
I know.
Chucky says Maggie was a real bitch and she deserved to die. And I was just like, the way that he delivers that is fucking hilarious.
That's great.
Yeah.
It just is so like, it's a snap, it's an absolute snap moment, and you don't expect it from the wee boy because everything we've kind of seen before this, he's away and he's a bit silly. He gets raspberries on his birthday. Oh, isn't he a cute wee boy? And then he just comes out with that, and you're like, what? I knew as soon as you went to say that, I was like, I know exactly what he's going to say.
I love the scene when the cop arrives and he's sort of looking for clues and stuff, and then he sees the footprints on the tabletop. And he obviously starts putting two and two together. But he says to the ma, he goes, oh, what are these footprints or something? And she instantly turns around and goes, what are you implying? You know, as if, you know, it's like, fucking hell, let the cop do his fucking job. Do you know what I mean? Your best mate has just literally fucking died. Just sit down, love, have a cup of coffee and just chill out and stop getting defensive. But yeah, I love how they played on the scene was it Andy or was it Chucky? And I think that was an important scene that was probably in the original script that, you know, they could have expanded on a little bit more. But obviously we know it was Chucky because we've seen it. Yeah. Or did we see it? We didn't really. We just seen the hammer.
Yeah, the hammer going into her face.
Going into her head, aye.
That hammer that should not be in there in the first place.
No.
Silly toy company.
So another great couple of scenes is really sort of towards the climax whenever, you know, back in the 80s, when kids had an imagination, they were just sent into a fucking asylum.
Yeah.
It was very
with
much
no windows.
I know, very much
No
from
window.
Return to Oz. The exact same thing happened in Return to Oz. And Andy is talking about this fucking, you know, his best friend who could speak to him, and the cops are like, nah, he's mental. And then there's a fucking doctor there, and he's like, I think we need to take him.
It's the way he's like, I have seen enough.
I know, like, we don't need to do any more sort of examinations or anything like that. Let's just fucking put him in a fucking cell, basically.
This kid is a loony, am I right? Let's go.
No windows, and Jesus, man, it's only a wee fucking small cell, isn't it?
It's also the fact that there is very clearly like other children there mixed amongst grown-ass adults.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of facility, what kind of place is that?
It's a very
windows.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange facility.
And they still do electroshock therapy.
Obviously. That's the answer to everything.
Why not?
Yeah.
The doctor gets electrocuted, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He ends up getting the electroshock therapy band on his head and shot to death.
So we get obviously the cool stuff with Andy escaping, and eventually the cop comes round, and he you know, because he gets attacked by Chucky in the car, which is awesome.
Yeah,
great.
And it's an awesome scene. He almost gets his dick cut off. He's like, ooh, he jumps up. So he eventually comes round, and then they go after Chucky, and they realize what the plot is and what he's trying to do. And Andy's escaped, and the climax is Andy goes back to the house because his mum told him that, you know, that's a safe place. So they go back to the house, and conveniently it all comes together, and we get that awesome sort of final couple of scenes in the house, and which I think is really good. You know, it's quite dark. You know, Chucky's sort of scuttling around in the shadows, and he's trying to take them out and stuff, and then that's where he gets, you know, eventually he gets burned. And then Andy isn't Andy that does it, because he's like, what is the line that Andy says? He says something like, I'll be your friend, but now it's the end, or something like that.
Yeah, and he goes, this is the end, friend.
This is the end, friend, and
he's matching.
He burns it, and you know, we get that. I mean, amazing acting from Brad Dourif again to convey that emotion that he's actually really burning. So that's the end, lads. I just loved how at the very end when Burnt Chucky gets his arm shot off.
Yeah.
And then he gets his leg shot off. And he gets his head
bits.
fucking shot off. And then he's just fucking crawling, and he's just like, oh man, we spoke about it a little bit at the start, and he's just, man, that was one of the best fucking segments.
His his face that is just like still like going, the wee mouse going, he's just shouting, kill him, kill him, kill him. And it's just like, this is manic, like Jesus. And then obviously finally somebody gets the heart.
Yeah.
Took them long
enough. Great movie, man. Really great. Really enjoyed rewatching it. I watched it a few years ago whenever the remake came out. I went back and rewatched this first before, and then I watched the remake. I'm pretty sure I watched them the same day. I still prefer the original Chucky. However, I did watch the remake. You guys have both seen it.
Yeah.
Came out in 2018. And have you seen it, Danny?
I've
skipped through it.
I kind of I'd come downstairs one day and my ma had it on. I was like, oh, I'll sit and watch this because, you know, I like my horrors and like Chucky and stuff. And I got to a point where I was kind of like, I'm out.
No,
it really was not for me. I didn't like the change into the kind of origin stuff, and as much as I love Mark Hamill and all, I didn't do it for me.
We're big Mark Hamill fans, but I surprisingly didn't mind it as much as I thought I would. I think whenever I hadn't watched it when it first came out, there was a good bit of time had passed before I watched it, and I wasn't part of the whole discourse on Twitter and on social media and stuff, so I just didn't want to be a part of that, and I wanted to sit down and watch it and enjoy it. And I did enjoy it. I still prefer the original origins. I still prefer the original movie. I prefer the original design of Chucky as well.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of, modern technology being integrated into older stories. It worked okay here because it's sort of scarily true. It could happen where we've seen other films where kind of AI comes to life and takes over, and it's sort of that idea. But yeah, I thought Mark Hamill was pretty good, and I love Aubrey Plaza, and I think the wee kid was decent as well. But yeah, it's not really a patch on the original, although I think it's worth watching. What do you think, Joe?
Well, do you know what? I went into it. I was very hesitant to see it, and then I heard me, well, I gotta see it anyway. So I went in. I'll never forget this. I went into the cinema room. I was the only person in the whole room.
Really?
Yeah, this is a good start.
Yep.
And I sat down, and it was like, oh, here we go. And when it ended, I was like, you, Gav, I was like, do you know what? That wasn't bad. Wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah. I thought the whole end scene. Sorry to interrupt you, but the whole sequence at the end was quite entertaining. It was quite fun. I thought
it was. I loved the fact that they brought all as you say, all these accessories, and they could all connect. You know what I mean? Now that's kind of genius. And I loved when they got the guy Tim Matheson. It was like the guy on the advert.
Yes.
He's like, get your buddy doll. I love that. I liked the I thought some of the deaths were kind of cool. I loved the thing with the head. Remember the thing with the head cut off?
Yes.
He get up and he walked in. There's like his head sitting on the thing. But yeah, I mean, I came out of it and people were like, what did you think? I was like, do you know what? It was entertaining, but it's not the original.
No, it's not the original.
No, it's not.
They were talking about maybe trying to expand it into doing another sequel. I don't think they're going to do that now, not with the new TV show coming out, which I'm really excited about. What about some of the sequels? We'll talk really briefly about some of the sequels. We spoke a little bit about how they changed direction after the third movie, and Don Mancini, who completely took over the franchise after that. Well, he had been there since the start, but he kind of really took over, I suppose, and went in a different direction. He said that he didn't want to make the same movie twice, so they purposely went down the comedy route, and they wanted to make it over the top, and that's why they introduced Tiffany and Jennifer Tilly's character, and they kind of went over the top with that. And obviously in the other sequels they brought in the seed, Glenn, isn't it? Glenda, yeah, he's transgender, and Billy Boyd actually, I think, voiced. Am I right in saying Billy Boyd voiced him?
I think it's Billy Boyd. Yeah, I think it was Billy Boyd. Yeah.
So there's another Lord of the Rings connection. What's the? I know, but what sequels? So I've seen Bride. Have I seen Seed? I don't think I've seen Seed of Chucky.
I think you'd remember Seed. Seed has some pretty memorable scenes.
I've seen,
they're so daft. Like,
I mean, there's maybe two that I haven't seen. I really enjoyed Bride of Chucky because obviously it's a throwback to Bride of Frankenstein, blah blah blah, that whole idea, and Jennifer Tilly is amazing. So what about you guys? What's your favorite sequels? Or which ones do you think is sort of worth revisiting anyway?
Okay. As I say, I love the first three. You can't touch them. I think they just work great. I do love Bride because it's different. It gives it a different kind of a vibe. Seed of Chucky, I watched and was like, what in the absolute fuck did I watch? And I watched it with a friend and he said, why was John Waters in that movie? And I was like, that's the least of your problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when they announced that thing was to come back, or it was going more darker again when they got till Curse.
Aye.
They were going back to it. And I love Curse. It's just
Isn't Fiona Dourif's in it as well?
She is.
Dourif's daughter, yeah.
Brad's daughter, yeah.
She's in the last two, I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I know I'm pretty sure she's going to be in the TV show as
well. Yeah. But the last two films I loved. I really did enjoy them. I really did. So the only one that I don't like is Seed. For 1,001 reasons. But we won't get into that,
Danny, what about you? Have you got any funny moments from the sequels?
Again, I think like 1 and 2 I'd originally seen when I was far too young, so I'm probably I think I'm going to go revisit 2. I've never seen 3, so I haven't watched the first one again. I'm probably going to go back and watch those ones, but I do remember as a teenager watching Bride and watching Seed, and one of the things I remember from Seed is Chucky trying to supply his seed, but the scene is one of the other characters like looking outside the house, and all they can see is the silhouette of Chucky as he is trying to deliver his own seed into a cup. But this person just assumes that it's somebody with dwarfism is a little person having a wank in the window. And it's just like it's just such a fucking, you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then and the whole thing about trying to, the idea is that they have to impregnate somebody to make their own child and stuff, and it's just like, what? Like, it's not a film that I don't think would be made today, because it's just some of the shit that goes down in it. You're like, it's very of its time.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
No, man, it's
still,
it's
still on Netflix.
It's one of those things, like, I know we were laughing about it now, it's kind of over the top and stuff, but it does address issues and stuff. And,
it has the transgender element.
Yeah,
I know, which again is quite. But there's a lot of the other stuff. Yeah, like the Chucky's. I mean, even its name is the implications of its name. You're like, it's gonna have some wank jokes.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, I'm looking forward to going back and rewatching all the sequels now, because as I said, it's been a long time since I've seen them, and there's a couple that I haven't seen, so I'm really looking forward to going back and watching them. But yeah, that's pretty much all we've got time for today. This has been a very, very long episode. So I'm looking forward to fucking editing this episode, but anyway.
At least for the most part, we actually stuck to the subject of our episode. Compared to the last 2 episodes where we've gone on tangents about fucking every other movie or about Nick Cage.
I know, Nick Cage, and who the fuck is Ed? So we spoke about Child's Play. We really tried to stay to the subject this time, and we're still fucking 90 minutes in, or almost 90 minutes. So we'll see how this splicey goes. But yeah, thanks very much, Joe, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
Sorry it's been so long since you.
I know. Hopefully I'll be another familiar face now.
You're welcome anytime.
We'll get you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll definitely get you on, and next season or whatever. So let us know if you want to talk about any movies. Drop them in the comments below. Let us know, as always. Give us your thoughts on the original Child's Play movie. Let us know what you think of the remake and the crazy sequels that came years later. Are you looking forward to the TV show? The trailer is now out there. You can find it online. It looks really good. I'm really excited about it, and I think that there's a lot of cool stuff coming out this Halloween, man. You've got Halloween coming next week, or the week after. Next week. You're excited about that?
Oh, yes.
You've got Chucky coming. You've got loads of cool stuff coming this Halloween, so we're kind of spoiled for choice.
We are.
But yeah, definitely Chucky. I'm looking forward to it. As always, leave the comments in the comment section below. Go check out the website. It's www.thefrightclubni.com, and check out our social medias at the Fright Club NI. Danny, is there anything else you want to say?
You gotta like, comment, and subscribe. And please recommend us to your horror film friends, especially during this spooky season.
Yes, please do. We're always looking to expand our audience when we can. So that's all we've got time for. We'll be back next week for another episode of Monday Night Frights. We do know what we're doing next week, do we, Danny?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we do. Of course we do. Yeah.
Always. We have this shit planned.
It's all planned in advance. Of course it is. But until next week, stay safe. Take care. All the best, guys. Bye.